Foreign level is among the athletes approached by Turkish officials to transfer allegiance to the transcontinental country. However, the 21-year-old has declined the offer, according to SportsMax Zone sources. Level is the reigning national 200-meter champion and earlier this month clocked a wind-assisted 19.79 seconds, the fastest by a Jamaican in all conditions since Usain Bolt's 19.78 Rio Olympic Games winning time in 2016. Level is among several other locally based athletes who have the attention of Turkey, including at least one prominent sprinter from the Stephen Francis-led MVP group. Once again, it is understood that those advances have been turned down. Now, at the weekend, there was also confirmation that Nigerian sprinter Favour Ofili, a sixth-place finisher over 200 meters at last year's Olympic Games in Paris, and the 2022 Commonwealth Games silver medalist, also in the half-lap event, is switching allegiance to Turkey. The Nigerian Federation has reacted, with President Tonaba Kokoa saying that while the news is hard and painful to take, they will not stop her. Well, then there is still the matter of 4 Jamaican field athletes who, like Ofili, have committed to Turkey. Earlier on Monday, Television Jamaica's Keon Rayner reported that the sport's global governing body, World Athletics, confirmed they have received 4 applications for transfer from Jamaica to Turkey, but that they are yet to be approved or even reviewed by the National Review Panel. Now, while World Athletics didn't release names, we conclude, based on confirmations last week, that the athletes are Olympic discus throw champion Rajesh Stoner, the world and Olympic long jump silver medalist Wayne Pinnock, Olympic shot put bronze medalist Rajendra Campbell, and world under-20 triple jump record holder Jaydon Hibbert. Now, this is starting to take the shape of a Netflix series, and we're tracking every step of the way. Let's now turn our attention to agent of 2 of the 4 Jamaicans who are switching allegiance to Turkey. That's Henry Rolle, the Bahamian, has a long and successful history, first coaching and now managing Caribbean athletes, along with Jaydon Hibbert and Wayne Pinnock. He's also the representative for the St. Lucian Queen, Julian Alfred. And remember, of course, that he coached Jamaica's Karen Stewart to world and Olympic medals in 2008 and 2009. Henry, welcome to the SportsMax Zone. It is a pleasure to have you. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm fine, a little divided, but I'm good.
Well, divided like so much of Jamaica, so much of the Caribbean, and so much of the world on this particular issue. Can you expound a little bit on just exactly where you stand on this? Because 2 of the athletes who are seeking a switch of allegiance belong to you as far as management is concerned.
Well, when the young men approached me, actually I was approached by their coach first. And I basically told them that if he wants my approval, he can't get that. I told the athletes the same thing. I said, I can't stop them from doing what they want to do, but I just can't, they can't get my support and approval simply because Jamaica has been the backbone of my success and my career over the last 20 years. Some of my closest friends, colleagues, mentors are Jamaicans. And so, but like I said, I told them, I said, hey, it's your decision. Think about it hard and long, and with support. I haven't spoken to them since I've heard that they have officially applied for the transfer. Wayne Pinnock asked if we can sit down and have a meeting, and he would share his views with me, and I guess Jaydon would do that. My biggest thing is that, you know, obviously a lot of people thinks of the national pride and so forth, and I do. And like I said, I love Jamaica like my home. It's been my backbone of my career. But you know, in its national anthem, it has a stir response to Judy Cole, Jamaica, the land we love. And I just feel this from, on my perspective, to 2 gentlemen I worked with, there will be some mental distress later on and sense of loss and displacement. And they will have a divided heart, and that's my main concern. You know, the other 2 gentlemen in question, the throwers, I completely understand them because they didn't have contracts, they weren't getting the support and so forth. That's not necessarily the case with my guys.
Yeah.
You know, especially Jaydon Hibbert. Um, I personally think it's a loss. And I won't go into that detail and so forth. I think Wayne Pinnock would have gotten there because Wayne has done everything that he's required to do. Wayne has won 3 silver medals. And I'm going to give you the pros and the cons. The, from the Jamaican side of it, it's a brand. You know, you have the sponsorships of shoe companies and so forth that put money and into the brand. But when you lose athletes like Jaydon Hibbert and Wayne Pinnock and the two throws and so forth, that you diminish that brand. You know, there's so many Jamaican fans that travel to the World Championship and the Olympic Games just to simply raise their flag. I don't know how their feelings are now. You know, the if they're gone, that's fine. But the problem now is who will follow next, and everybody is commenting on the problem, but no solution. You know, and either you're part of the problem or you're part of the solution. And I choose to be a part of the solution. You know, a lot of pressures on the J3As and so forth. Yeah, there's some things they have to do differently and clean up. So it's the JOA. Nobody's knocking on them. They get the same or even more resources than the J3As. You know, but I have sat down since this news has hit because, like I say, because of my connections to Jamaica and so forth. And then I watched Veronica Campbell Brown on your show, the foundation and the what she's putting back in the community for what? For later on for them to pick up and go. So this has got to be nipped in the bud, you know. And I just brainstorm and how this can be nipped in the bud, and I came up with a plan. And people might think I'm crazy and so forth, but I love to think that way. That's just my thoughts and so forth. I got a background in political science and sports management and also in the insurance industry. And I came up with a realistic plan that will raise about $15.5 million a year for Jamaica and its sporting programs, which will create a 3-tier system in athletics: gold, silver, and bronze. $60,000 a year towards individuals who makes an Olympic, who medals at the Olympic Games, the medalists, finalists, top 10. This is subvention that's paid to them yearly of $5,000 a month. Then you have a silver, which is area games medalists, national senior teams, world indoor medalists, and top 10 performances, which will pay them $2,500 US a month, which is about 387,000 Jamaican dollars. And then you have your development, which is relay pool individual, NCAA finalists, top local high school talent that's moving to the elite level, that will pay them 206,000 Jamaican dollars each month. And then also you have the medalists where a gold medalist is given in the Olympic Games individually 100,000 US, silver 50,000, bronze 25,000, and 10,000 to finalists. Relay members 25, 15, 10, all US dollars. And the system goes down to world indoors, world outdoor, and so forth. And this is very easy when I look at it and how the money where the money will come from and so forth. Now, people might say, what this Bohemian guy talking about and trying to run Jamaica? But like I said, I want to be a part of the solution because I have made a living based on the success I've had with Jamaicans.
Yeah.
I won a national championship in Auburn with 6 Jamaican girls from San Diego. You know, so I am torn a bit so forth. I'm not against what the athletes want to do. I won't stop anybody from doing anything they want to do except unless they're killing themselves or trying to harm somebody else. But I want to be a part of the solution, not the problem.
Yeah. And Henry, can you give us a little bit more as to how you propose to raise that type of money? Because, I mean, we've been talking about this for years now, and nobody has come up with a plan. And in a matter of days, you seem to have come up with something. So give us a better idea of how you would be able to raise these funds.
I want to sit down with Minister Grange. I have had some dialogues with her when I was recruiting her niece, with Stephen Francis, Glenn Mills, and Maurice Wilson, some of the stakeholders in the sports, like one individual from the J3S, and I will show them how this plan works and how easy it is and and it's very sustainable and it will create a surplus every year. And this is to encourage and ensure athletes can train without financial burdens, motivate elite performances, and promote Jamaica global brand through sports. You know, and it's like, and I think I am 75% sure it would work.
Henry, I want to go back to the issue at hand, right? Because you said at the top of the interview that you disagreed with them switching allegiance.
I won't say I would disagree. I said, if the motivation, not talking about the troll, if the motivation is financial, yes.
Okay. Are you inclined to think that it's anything outside of financial?
Pardon?
Are you inclined to think that it's anything outside of financial?
Well, I think that, you know, it was a situation where it was a last minute thing. The thoughts had to be, was much thought into it because the passports had to be done by the end of this month. But I did the math. I did the math with Jaydon Hibbert alone.
And
financially, it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
No. I can't disclose because of contractual agreements and privacy.
No, I get that.
Financially, it doesn't make any sense.
I get that. So here's my next question, right? Have sponsors approached you in regards to your athletes, especially sponsors in Jamaica? And are those contracts in trouble due to this proposed switch of allegiance?
Well, of course, you know, Jaydon had a collaboration with KFC. I mean, is KFC in Jamaica going to sponsor a Turkish athlete? Even in the sense of Puma, you know, Turkey is not a brand affiliated with Puma in the sense of what they're trying to portray as a brand. You know, I'll ask you another question. You think Cool Runnings would have been a success if it was Turkish athletes?
Personally, no.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that Jamaica is different. Jaydon Hibbert, it hurts me because I really love Jaydon Hibbert. I would do anything for Jaydon and his family. Jaydon, it brings a zest. Jaydon brings life and to vibe to Jamaica, which branding and Puma saw differently as a thrower or a jumper, but as an individual, and they rewarded them that way. And they're very disappointed.
Are you inclined to represent these athletes after the meeting that you will be having with them soon?
I like to make decisions when I'm angry. And at first I was angry and I said some harsh things. I apologized to Wayne. And we're going to sit down and see if it makes sense. But I haven't spoken to Jaydon yet. And if we can meet in the middle, fine. But right now, I'm just concerned about he has a divided heart right now, and there's a lot of mental strain on the young man right now, and that's my biggest concern right now. Wayne has a few meets if this goes through, few meets left of the season. I'm a manager. I got to follow through with my commitments. Jaydon is hurt. Jaydon won't have any meets, but he obviously has next year. And if they choose that, hey, I won't be the manager, hey, they come and go.
Jaydon, of course, is a much younger athlete. Are you disappointed with his advisors or people who would have encouraged him to move in a particular direction, especially in regards to representing Jamaica or not?
I am very disappointed because, secondly, I got it as second nature, second conversation. Nobody came to me directly, which is a breach of the agency clause, and that's another story on a different day, you know. But Jaydon did speak to me, but I didn't think Jaydon was going anywhere because the last conversation we had, Jaydon gave me all the reasons why it didn't make sense then. And he didn't want to deal with the collateral damages and so forth. And so I just think that somebody hammered him and so forth. $500,000 to someone out of contract, yes, a lot. $500,000 when you're under the age of 30 is not much money. Yeah, it gets you going and so forth. But I'm telling you, where this young man was going and what was planned for him and so forth, it's a loss.
Yeah, would you advise, because the Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association, for example, said to us today that they have the power to block these transfers. They don't have to cooperate and that could make things complicated at the very least. In the case of Wayne Pinnock specifically, would you advise him to still come to the Nationals just in case this does not go through and he has to revert to representing Jamaica?
Well, I think that's one of the things we were going to sit down and talk about when I do get to Jamaica. But like I said, Wayne has his own mind. He has to also speak to his coach, and he has to make a decision based on what he feels is good for him. I can only give him my advice. I mean, yes, the J3s have the right to, has the option of blocking the young men and so forth. But I mean, that's not a fight you really want to take up. If somebody feels strongly about going, and let them go. They may be disgruntled in a sense. You know, Turkey did this before. I think it's lazy on their behalf. Here's a country with so many people, so many resources, but yet they want to buy individuals from different places, and that's just lazy. You know, that's not creative at all. What if Trinidad decided to do that? I don't think the response would be the same. Jamaicans would be probably uproar if Trinidad did that. You know, but you see him to accept it with Turkey.
Yeah, Henry, I'm not sure if you've picked up the vibe in Jamaica here, but you said at the top of this interview that you weren't 100% sure how Jamaicans are taking this information. And from your perspective, it's a negative for you. But would you be surprised? Well, we haven't done a formal survey, but generally speaking in social media and talking to people, there hasn't been too much criticism of the athletes on this. People think that...
No, I won't criticize the athletes because they got, like I said, the two throwers, I agree with them 100%. Wayne, yes, I'm 50-50 torn on him. Jaydon, I'm not. If it for a financial reason. And I think the public feels that way because they're frustrated maybe in the administration and what has happened and the assistance that was not provided to the athletes over course and duration of time. I think that's more. And then they say, hey, maybe the J3As needed some sniffing salt. Maybe the JOA needed some sniffing salt. But what's going to happen now? You're just gonna debate it and let them go and don't find a solution?
Yeah. You said you are a little more understanding of the throwers' decisions. Roger Stoner is an Olympic champion. It is a little bit difficult to digest that somebody who holds an Olympic gold medal would feel.
Yeah, but he's not making the money. I watch these. I travel in Europe and I watch the shot putter run from one plane, throw one day, the next day on another plane to go throw one day just to make ends meet. That's not right. I watch Danielle Dobbs, how she and how she trains and so forth, and a lot of things she's doing on her own. But I think this prevention program that I came up with and can empower athletes, elevating the nation and embracing heritage.
Yeah.
You know.
But if you on your own as a Bahamian could have gone through the trouble of putting this proposal together, aren't you disappointed, or wouldn't you suggest that the Jamaica Olympic Association and the J3As have dropped the ball on this?
They're comfortable. They're comfortable, that's all. I think if it was a high-level sprinter, it would be different. Obviously, the field event athletes are treated different and so forth, but, you know, I still can't bash the J3s because it's a volunteer association at this point in time. Maybe a few individuals are paid and so forth, you know. But something the solution. This is sniffing salt. There has to be a solution now, and I'm gonna sit down, like I said, with some very close friends, Stephen Francis and Adrian Laidlaw, and get the minister attention. And like I tell you, I think I have figured out a way to raise $15.5 million a year to go towards athletics, not only track and field in Jamaica, but you got the Sunshine Girls. You can't leave them out.
I want to go back to a particular point because you said that you're more disappointed with Jaydon than anyone else, right? But in regards to his research...
Let me change my tone. I wouldn't say disappointed. I am just confused what his logic is.
Okay, during his injury spell, was there any time when he was not pleased with the attention that he would have received from Jamaica's administrators?
He never mentioned that to me. And maybe that might be a reason he's switching these in. He may be looking at what he has lost and trying to recapture that through this program. You know, listen, Jaydon should have been, if all goes well, he should have been a world champion in 2023. 2024, he had a meniscus tear. He went out there with his heart and his soul, and he competed under a lot of pain. He should have won a medal. You know, this year, he's going to miss the entire year. So that in itself is a lot of mental stress. And that's why I'm saying I am more concerned about his mental state. And people make bad decisions when they're in a bad place.
Yeah. Henry, and just saying on that Jaydon point, and I completely understand everything that you have just said. The information as we have it is that $500,000 US figure is really a minimum. So, for example,
yeah, but everything else you have to earn.
It could well be though that startup figure is not for all the athletes. So it's a possibility that Jaydon has a higher startup figure based on a lot of the things that you just said. His age, his potential.
I haven't seen the contracts. Have you?
I have not seen the contract.
All right, so we all are rumored to what it could be. We haven't seen it. That's why I will sit down with Wayne, and Wayne will give me the details. You know.
But let me ask you this way, though: if it was a situation where his startup was a lot greater than $500,000, would you still feel the same way?
But see, that's like saying Wayne Pinnock is 500,000, Jaydon 7. Does 200,000 make a difference? I mean, let's be for real. Someone that's under the age of 30, does that make a difference in their lifetime? You know, these guys have financial, family, and ancestral connections to their community. Jaydon Hibbert has a foundation, you know, and so forth. All of these are going to be washed away. That's my concern.
Yeah. If you could still convince him not to take this deal, would you try?
I first got to talk to him. I got to find out his reasons. Maybe his reasons are different from what I'm thinking, you know? But I spoke to him and I told him, I said, Jaydon, you can do whatever, but I can't give you my support. And I told Wayne the same thing. I can't give you my support. I said, based on my relationship with Jamaica, you know, I said, but you could do anything you want to do. You're grown, man. You got to think about yourself and so forth. And they made the decision based on the way they feel. Is it monetary? Possibly, yes. Maybe they may be frustrated with the system. There's a lot of people that was frustrated with the system.
Yeah.
You know? But it's now sniffing salt that, hey, some things got to change. You know? If the same thing happened next year, then you might have a boatload of them gone.
Yeah. And I just want to be clear, Henry, because I'm not sure I was clear on this a little bit earlier when you spoke to it. At what stage did you become aware of what was going on?
Say more in the latter stage.
The last stage? That's after it was reported in the media?
No, right before then, I got a call from Travis. And Travis just outlined, hey, these guys got offers from Turkey and so on. And I said, Travis, stop right there. Yeah. If you asking me for my support, you ain't getting that. You know?
And that's then Travis Gifford, the coach.
Yes, I called Wayne. I asked Wayne if it was true. Wayne said yes. I gave him my point of view. Maybe I should have listened a little more. And I told Jaydon, but me and Jaydon had a good talk. Jaydon gave me all the reasons why it didn't make sense for him. And that's why I felt that he was pressured.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he's dissing himself now. I think the young man is disheartened and split. The throwers, like I said, well, I don't manage them. I just know of them and so forth. But I know the situation they're in, especially as an Olympic champion. It's very disheartening as an Olympic champion and you don't have a substantial income.
Yeah. I have to ask this final one, Henry, based on everything you know about the process, based on the conversations you've had with the young men, limited or otherwise, in your own mind, is it a done deal or is there still a chance?
There's always a chance because they can decide, it may sit out this year and they can decide next year, you know what, this don't make sense to me. But if they get paid, they probably got to pay the money back. You know? I mean, they can always come back home.
Henry Rolle, we appreciate you stopping by the SportsMax Zone, and we definitely want to talk some more about that proposal as soon as you're at a stage and you've spoken to the individuals you think can assist in taking it forward. We'll be very open to you coming on the SportsMax Zone and making one of those PowerPoint presentations. We have some beautiful screens around this studio, and we would love to use them up for that type of good.
It's very few. This would be one of the best subventions in the world by a sporting body, not just individuals, but overall, because it will accommodate up to 90 athletes per year in track and field.
Wow, that sounds significant. Henry Rolle, thank you so much. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Yeah, very significant, a couple of things that he said there, Ricardo and Donald. And one of the things that jumped out at me was when he mentioned that if this story had centered on sprinters, which Jamaicans glorify and embrace as the backbone of the country's track and field, he feels things could have been different, or the reaction from the J3As and the JOA would be more, it would trigger more of a heartfelt response, which to me is at the heart of the problem, because these people are field events people, and they've been complaining for years.
Being ignored.
That they're being ignored.
Yeah.
So while I heard him being a little bit soft on the J3As because he says it's a voluntary body and, you know, they don't have the kind of money that the JOA has.
I have some other takes on that.
Yeah,
but I'll leave that for
I
another
would
day.
suggest to Henry that the J3As has to man up and stand up on this issue, because it is a fact that the field events athletes have felt for a long time that they haven't gotten what they deserved. And in Paris last year, they put their hands up. They said, hey, we're here. And even a year after that, almost, the feeling is the same. That, you know, in spite of their tremendous performances in Paris, nothing is changing. And it's understandable that they would get disheartened.
I may have read him incorrectly, Lance and Donald, but listening to Henry just now, I get the feeling, and he said he couldn't disclose the details, but I get the feeling that Jaydon Hibbert's contract, for example, with Puma, is not a normal field event athlete contract, that it is more akin to what sprinters and quality sprinters would be receiving. Hence, I think the disappointment that Jaydon has decided to go this way. There's that. I would also say that in terms of a reaction from the general population, and I guess the J3As, and in fairness to the J3As, they did say at today's press conference, this is not something they're happy with. This is not something they like to see, losing 4 of their
But they have to say that,
premier
Ricardo.
athletes. Fair enough. But it would have to be sprinters of the highest caliber for it to
move the needle.
Exactly, because don't forget, in 2015, there were 2 athletes who went to Turkey. Winston Barnes, name changed to Emery Barnes. Jacques Harvey, name changed to Jacques Ali Harvey.
Weren't at the top of the tree.
They weren't at the top of the tree. There were 2 athletes who also switched to Bahrain, Andrew Fisher and Kimberly Brown. There are very few individuals who even remember that those athletes made the switch. Why? Because they were mid-tier Jamaican sprinters. At the time, Jamaica had Usain Bolt and Johan Blake and Nesta Carter and Nickel Ashmead and Kemar Bailey-Cole and Michael Frater and junior athletes coming through the system like Michael Ahara and Javon Minzy. And so, yes, you lost 4 sprinters, but it was like, oh, well, we'll replace those. We have Bolt, we have the others. We're still winning the 4x1. So I don't think just losing any sprinter would move the needle. It would have to be sprinters of the likes of the Olympic silver medalist, Keshane Thompson, Oblique Seville, Akeem Blake, of that quality, of that ilk. And
there's-
I would dare say it probably wouldn't move the needle unless it was Kishane Thompson.
Yeah, I hear you, and I accept what you just said. The only problem I have is that none of them won gold medals in Paris last year, and Roger Stoner did.
Yeah, but the sprinters sell more.
Yeah. Well, they do, but achievement is achievement.
Yeah,
You know,
I love the idea that Henry has brought, though, because it is something similar that I've been trying to suggest for a long time, certainly from the standpoint of formalizing it. You listen to the tiers that Henry just spoke to. The gold tier, what athletes would be able to get, which athletes would qualify for that, the silver tier, the bronze tier, the developmental tier. And even with the resources that the J3s have now, I think they should be putting that in place, making it public and making it clear how athletes qualify, and the ones who are successful in the process are made known. You know, it's interesting, at the press conference today, the J3's president, Garth Gale, was speaking, well, he said that if the athletes had come to them and told them of the issues they were having, that they would have sought to do as best as they could to assist them. That's what the J3's president said. 5 minutes before coming on this show, I got a voice note to say they are lying, because I know 4 athletes who have written to the J3s in the last year and they have not responded to them. And you are going to get those reactions because the system is not formal enough. Having said all of that, Donald and Lance, there is one of the 4 athletes who is transferring allegiance who got a subvention from the J3s as recently as the month of May. That's last month. They were given J3's financial support. But they're switching allegiance now. And that is not to defend the J3s, because I think I am one of the strongest critics of the Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association, but a lot of it is around not what they do or don't do, or what they give or don't give, but how they do it, and the access that everybody has, and the transparency to know that this exists, this is how I access it, and when it is accessed, everybody knows these are the 20 athletes, or in Henry's case, based on his proposal, these are the 90 athletes who are eligible, these are the different tiers they are in, they will get this amount over this period, and everybody is able to say, yes, this process is transparent and we can't quarrel. That doesn't exist now, and it's a major part of my issue.
Well, we have to go to a break now, right?
We do?
Because we run out of time.
I wish we would never
we'll,
break
we'll
from
have
this.
we'll have more on this in the next segment. So stay with us.
Season 2.
Yeah.